This is Gert-Jan Wolf at IWCE 2016. We're here in Las Vegas talking to Dan O'Malley, who's Senior Product Development of Cisco of the Software Platform Group. Okay, Dan, you have been here for a few years. You have seen the change from narrowband to broadband, the need for many agencies. Can you talk a little bit more about the role of Cisco in this?
Sure. So Cisco, I work for the Software Platforms Group. So we make the software that connects the disparate work teams together. So whether you're on a two-way radio using P25 or DMR or Tetra, you basically have these audio streams coming into an infrastructure, and we like to connect everything over the internet. So if you have a data connection, you're able to take the LTE users and mix the audio and send it to the two-way radio world. So we basically are the glue. Our software can take these different disparate audio streams, mix them together, and send them to people that need to communicate.
Okay. Well, if we're talking about critical communications and public safety, what you have seen in Belgium with the attack at the airport, the Belgian government have asked the public not to use internet. What happens with a system that you're supporting then in that case?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. We have some carriers around the world who can actually prioritize public safety traffic on the internet. So there's certain carriers that can offer that packet priority. So that's one way to deal with the congestion, like what happened in Belgium. Another way is in the US, we're actually setting aside spectrum called FirstNet or band class 14. So the public safety users have their own LTE spectrum, which doesn't typically interfere with the consumers or the other people just using the internet, the wireless internet.
Okay. Well, I don't want to shut holes in your product portfolio, but what happens if you work with so many companies? You work with hardware vendors of the LTE devices. I saw Sonim here. I saw Parallel Wireless. What happens with the responsibility for systems like that? If something happens, if something goes wrong.
Well, there's one way to deploy systems like this is centralized deployment, where you have coverage for not only public safety users, but for consumers using cell phones. But then there's a way to bring your own coverage. So a lot of times during these disasters, you can actually bring a tactical communications vehicle that has maybe a satellite backhaul if you're in the middle of nowhere. You can still get that internet connection over the SATCOM link, and then you light up like an LTE tactical bubble. So in the case of a bombing, or even in large events like in America, the Super Bowl, or these where you have a lot of people in one area, the typical data plans get congested because everyone's sending videos and doing texting, and so you can bring your own coverage, and we're showing that in the booth. Is with the Sonim phones use what's called band class 14. We have our push-to-talk application. You squeeze the button, and it's going over those private LTE frequencies. So that's typically that's the in vogue way to deal with situations like bombings or things like that. Is governments or public safety agencies will bring in these extra pieces of communication equipment so that people on the ground dealing with the situation can talk to one another and have the bandwidth to do so.
Okay, that's quite interesting to understand. And if we look at the future of mission critical push to talk, because your solutions are mission critical, but are they also used for public safety situations specifically? Because we got LMR for voice, which is really rock steady. Now we have the 3GPP working on the standards and deploying the standards further. So how do you look at that?
So the 3GPP, the mission critical push to talk, we started our product back in 2004. So we've been shipping for many, many years before mission critical push to talk came around. So how we look at it is if we have a data connection and it's a reliable data connection, we actually have priority and preemption of audio traffic within our own software. So I think that's the same thing that mission critical push to talk is trying to do, is when there's emergencies and the first responders need to have more priority over other people on the network, they need that priority. They also need bandwidth, and they also need what happens when you roam outside LT coverage, what happens when you don't have LMR coverage, right? And that's where that tactical deployments come into play as well. So.
And how about security of those systems? We now see a lot of talks happening about cybersecurity. I guess you guys have thought about that.
Yeah, there's security brings up a whole bunch of concerns. Who has authorization to get onto the network, and then beyond just the authorization, it's the encryption. So how we do it in our mobile clients is we use VPN, so we encrypt the pipes. So you can have many. We can have customers who have on-premise servers, and they get an encrypted connection from their mobile clients all the way back to the servers, and they can go through many carriers and transports to do that. So that's typically how we solve that. We also interoperate with the LMR radio world, where they have payload encryption, so we can decrypt and encrypt those audio conversations as well.
So that means the future looks bright for Cisco.
We hope so, yes. And there's words out there like the Internet of Things and digitization. It's really about how do we move these communications into a digital method, and then how do we use the internet to transport it? And it's exciting for us. And it's not just about push-to-talk audio. We're now seeing, when a policeman has a wearable video camera, they want to stream live video, and typically a two-way radio network's not going to handle live streaming video. So that's one of the movements towards broadband and LTE, is to get more situational awareness so that people that are experts can see what the first responders are seeing, and they can help them in these situations. And again, our software helps bring everyone together, so we're excited about it.
That's the keyword, situational awareness, is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you.